بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So we're going to begin this book again, which is Illustrated Tajweed. I'll just focus on this book, inshallah. If you guys can get it, I don't think it's available everywhere. The sisters just has a Sheikh Ayman's picture there. Ensure that you get the one that's English and Arabic, unless you just want the Arabic one. So it'll say English, Arabi, Injilizi. So it's side by side. Because he does have the original book, it's only Arabic. So we'll be going through this book. It's pretty in-depth. It has charts and everything like that. If you guys get it, it'll be much easier. And if you don't, that's also fine. Like we did before, we'll demonstrate on the board, inshallah. So we are going to start, inshallah. And this time I'll actually go through this book, so we might not really even get to the Tajweed stuff because there's a lot of just definitions and just general things that he discusses. The first thing the Shaykh discusses is, what is the definition of Quran? Like, what's Quran? He says, Kalamullah Ta'ala al-Mu'jiz. It's the miraculous speech of Allah. Al-Munazzalu ala qalbi nabiyyina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The miraculous speech of Allah which was sent to the heart of our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Al-Muta'abbadu bi tilawatihi. It is that which, the tilawa of which is worship. When you do tilawa of Quran, it's ibadah. Al-Maktubu bayna ad-daffatayn. It is that which is written within the two covers. So, like, if you have a Quran mushaf between the two covers, that's the Quran. Manqulu ilayna bit-tawatur, that which reached us through tawatur. Al-mutahadda bi aqsari suratin minhu, that which challenges people to formulate something like it, even if it's the shortest surah. So what I'll do is I'll summarize. Okay, what is Quran? So, like, sometimes they define stuff that you just already know, like, what is air? And then you're like, well, air is what I breathe, but that's not a definition. Scientists will be able to define it, like it's made of these chemicals and stuff like that. So, like, what is Quran? Quran is Allah's speech, but it's more detailed than that. And those of you who are part of the Qira'at program, you'll know that you can't just say something like, it's that which Allah sent to the Prophet ﷺ. That's a good definition, but then what about the shadha? What about that which wasn't at the final presentation? So, there's details. So here he mentions a few points. So I'll write those points out. So the first point he says, it's the miraculous speech of Allah. That's number one. All of this is the definition, all of it together. Number two, al-munazzalu ala qalbi nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, why is this not the best definition for Quran? Why can't I just stop there? Can anyone tell me? Like, what's wrong? Why can't I just say Quran is a miraculous speech of Allah? Because Allah. Very good. Because there's more miraculous speech of Allah. There's Torah, there's Injil. That's also miraculous when it was originally sent. So that's why he says here, that which was sent to the heart of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. Now, why is this not enough as a definition? There is Hadith Qudsi, but also someone could say Hadith Qudsi is not miraculous speech of Allah, because, like, it's a paraphrasing of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like, he has info from Allah that Allah sent directly to him, and he says it in his own phrases. Something you guys learned in the intensive. So the third clause he puts, al-muta'abbadu bi tilawatihi. Its recitation is ibadah. So is there such miraculous speech of Allah sent to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam whose recitation is not ibadah? The abrogated verses, yes, or the qira'at shadha that we talked about, right? And if you guys don't know these terms, just because Maybe you weren't at the intensive. So I'm not going to go too into it. Okay, so number 3 is its recitation is worship. Let's see what's the benefit of the next clause. So it's a miraculous speech of Allah sent to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Its recitation is worship. The fourth clause he puts is it is written in between the two covers. So I'm just trying to think, like, why is he making this clause? Two covers of the Mus'haf, the Quran book. So it's possible that this is a emphasis of this one. So number 4 is emphasizing number 3. It's possible. So now, if you want, you can sit here. I'm blocking. Okay. Why? Because let's say the Mus'haf of Ubay bin Ka'b, Mus'haf of Ibn Mas'ud, which we talked about before, that is not in the Masahif Uthmaniyah. Right? Between the two covers of the Mus'haf Uthmani. That's what it. Here, it's actually Mus'haf Uthmani. That's what he means here. And you know, you guys, Mus'haf Uthmani are the Masahif that Uthman radiallahu anhu had ordered to make. So Quran is that which is written in between the two covers of the Mus'haf Uthmani. This means that we will not count the Mus'haf of Ubay radiallahu anhu, Ibn Mas'ud, Ali radiallahu anhum, Aisha radiallahu anha. They had their own Mus'haf, but it differed slightly from this Mus'haf, these Masahif. So that's why this clause is there. That wouldn't be, for them it's ibadah when they recite that Quran, it's ibadah, but we're emphasizing that point here. Number 5. This again is an emphasis of, I think number point 3. Both of these are emphasizing that. Number 5 is that it is established through tawatur, or we'll say established through mass transmission. One of my teachers, he could write on the board like calligraphy. Like the way he wrote was so beautiful. You know, like when I'm like my handwriting is not that bad, but like when I'm over here, it's all twisted and it's like going all weird. But like he would do that, but it would be like writing like normal. I don't know how he did it. He must have practice. Established through mass transmission. So what's the point of this mass transmission? What's transmitted not through mass transmission? You wanna know? Or is there anything that meets all of these conditions, but it's like not mass transmission? You could say like mashhur, qira'at, or even the shadda, because these 2 points are emphasizing that point. Because the shadda, we would say it's not ibadah, and shadda also sometimes, the reason why it became shadda is it's not in the Masahif Uthmaniyah, or the reason why it's shadda is it didn't have mass transmission. Okay, almost done with the definition. The last thing, so number 6, is a full definition of Quran. المتحدى بأقصر سورة منه. The shortest surah, or it challenges people to replicate even the shortest surah. Okay, so this is the full definition of Quran, 6 points, like in Tablighi Jamaat, 6 points of Quran. Miraculous speech of Allah. So what is miraculous about the speech of Allah? I did a program about that. It's also on my YouTube channel. You guys can check it out. Sent to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so it's miraculous speech of Allah. How is it miraculous? You can watch the video. It is sent to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Its recitation is ibadah. So why did we say this? Because there's miraculous speech of Allah sent to other people. Why did we say miraculous speech of Allah? If it's not miraculous speech of Allah, it's, you know, that's not even Quran. Like Shakespeare's sonnets, that's not going to count because it's not miraculous speech of Allah. Or hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's not going to count because it's not miraculous speech of Allah. Number 2, it has to be sent to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not Isa alayhi salam. That's called Injil, not Torah. That's Musa alayhi salam's kitab, and Zabur is that of Dawood alayhi salam. They're all miraculous speech. Its recitation is worship. Why? Because there are some variants of the Quran that we don't consider Quran anymore due to various reasons. Among those reasons is it wasn't written in the Uthmani Qur'ans. Uthman radiallahu anhu had various Qur'ans written, and they spread them throughout the land. And anyone who had a Qur'an that wasn't like the ones that Uthman radiallahu anhu had written, that was, after that, it was considered not Qur'an anymore. So those wouldn't be considered ibadah anymore, because they're not written in between the two covers of the Uthmani Masahib. Or why is its recitation not worship? Maybe it wasn't massively transmitted. Quran must be massively transmitted, which means from the generation of the Sahaba, they received it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You have to have so many people giving it to the next generation that it's impossible for them to lie. So how many Sahaba transmit the Quran? We don't even know. Like thousands and thousands of Sahaba knew the Quran, and they gave it to the Tabi'een. How many Tabi'een knew the Quran? We cannot count them. It's like me asking you today, how many Muslims know, how many people know Quran? Give me the number. You can't do it. And you couldn't do it from the Sahaba's age, you couldn't do it in the Tabi'een's age, so on and so forth. So it needs to be like that. If someone says, okay, I heard from this person or heard from that person that this is an ayah of Quran, but only like 3 people knew it, we're not going to say it's Quran. It's not massively transmitted. So it has to be massively transmitted. And number 6, the Quran, what does it do? It challenges people to replicate the shortest surah. So that's just an attribute of Quran itself. So this could be said as there's more than one definition of Quran, but this is a definition that Sheikh Ayman gives in his book. So I just wanted to write that out, because when you say it so quick, then it just flies over the head. Here you get like an image. Now you understand, okay, Quran has to meet these criteria. Then he goes into talking about how did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam receive the Quran, or rather, how did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam disseminate the Quran? How did he do tabligh of the Quran? Tabligh means to preach or disseminate, share. So how did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do it? So can I erase this? Did everyone? I don't think you guys are gonna write it right. Are you still writing? You're drawing something? You shouldn't be. This is class. You can draw after. It's okay. Maybe you're drawing a mushaf or something. Okay. It says here, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the Quran to the Ummah through 2 methods. So, taught. How did he teach the Quran? How was the Quran taught? Through writing. Number 2, verbal. So the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the Quran, how he shared it with the Sahaba, was through writing. Now, did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam write? There's a difference of opinion on that, but like he didn't write. He wasn't a scribe of Quran. So some Sahaba would write for him, such as the Khulafa Rashidun could write. Zayd bin Thabit was one really famous for writing Quran. So in the time of Rasulullah, the Quran was preserved through writing. But the main way Quran was shared was verbal. They would listen to him. They would memorize it from, the way Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said it, and then they would teach it that way too. Still in today's time, there are some people who memorize Quran through verbal transmission. Like there's actually no writing. I actually met someone when I was doing hifz. This person was, I believe, from like the villages in Pakistan. He taught his children Quran. He was a hafiz by verbal. They didn't read it. He gave them a verse, they would memorize it, and then they would add it to what they had before, and they would revise to their dad, and then he gave them another verse, and they would memorize it. Not even a slate. So there's some people that do that still. So I don't know. So this is how the Sahaba learned. It was completely verbal. And this was a what he calls a naqlu soti, or says the translation is phonic conveyance. Now, I don't know what that means, phonic conveyance. It means this is the method which we call Tajweed, is part of this. Tajweed is part of this method. Like actual tajweed, you can't really do justice to tajweed by writing. That's why scholars state that if you want to learn tajweed, you cannot suffice with the books of tajweed. You can buy all the books of tajweed and memorize them, and you'll still make mistakes. That's why, because tajweed is a verbal science. Okay. Now, I'm just going to skip a few things here. And he mentions a few things like how was the verbal delivery of the Quran? How did it take place? Jibril alayhi salam would come and he would recite the Quran with tajweed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would learn the Quran with tajweed. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would recite the Quran with tajweed to the Sahaba. They would memorize it with tajweed and they would give it to the tabi'un, so on and so forth. So the actual dissemination and spreading of Quran is with tajweed. Uh, it must be with tajweed. So like if you say that, even some scholars would say that someone recites Quran without tajweed, then they'll say that's not Quran. Because Quran is with tajweed. When you hear the Quran, it's with tajweed. Then Sheikh Iman, he goes into the documenting of the Quran. So he goes into the narrations of Zayd bin Thabit and how he did it in the time of Abu Bakr and the time of Uthman. I recommend you guys to look at those videos again if you were there in the program. If not, then it's not too important right now. If you guys get this book, then Sheikh Iman, he shows all of his teachers, which is really cool. These are all of his teachers, and this is his sanad. So he did his qira'at with all of these asatida, meaning some he did sab'a with, some he did his ashara with, multiple times. So you guys know how long it takes to do ashara kubra right now. You get some idea. So imagine doing it with all of these shuyukh. Like not just one, but over and over and over and over again. And these are like the kibar shuyukh of his age. So this is, he shows his sanad. Like, there's a few pages. Okay. Then he goes into the science of tajweed. What is the science of tajweed? Here he will discuss the definition of tajweed, types of mistakes. What is the ruling of tajweed? Like, do you have to read with tajweed? Can you read the Quran with musical melodies or not? The maqamat is a very famous thing. People love the maqamat. It sounds great. But what's the ruling about that? And then he'll talk about like the speed in which a person can recite. There's different ways, different speeds in which a person can recite. So, inshallah, we'll do all of these different things. Who remembers what tajweed was? The definition of tajweed from when we used to have these lessons. Anyone remember? Recap. What is it? Makharijul huruf. Makhraj and sifat. That's very close. Yes. This is, you just have to put it into words. So like reciting every letter from its makhraj with its sifat. That's what we discussed last time. Was the definition of tajweed. Reciting every letter from the place it's supposed to be recited from in the mouth, the location, with the qualities of that letter. Okay. So let's see what Sheikh Ayman says here. That was an easy definition. So if you want to say easy definition of tajweed, you can just summarize it like that. Place of pronunciation. Right. So for every letter, you need to take it out from the place of pronunciation, and then you need to read the letter with all of its qualities. That's the short definition of tajweed. Now, a longer definition. He says, it is the science through which the correct pronunciation of Arabic letters is known. And that is known by knowing its makhraj and the permanent and temporary sifat and other rulings. So he goes a little bit more in detail. So the way he defines it is correct pronunciation I don't even know if we have enough time. Of Arabic letters. So there's no tajweed in English. Does anyone know what the equivalent would be in English? No. Okay. Articulation. Okay. Just takes so long to write. Knowing the place of pronunciation, and then temporary and permanent attributes. I'll just write temp and perm attribute. And then he says, and other rules that come from it. Other rules. Why does it say other rules? There's other stuff in Tajweed. It's not just pronunciating every letter with its qualities. What about waqf? What about ibtida? Like how you stop on a letter, how you start on the next word. What about like idgham? What about ikhfa? And those kind of things. So that's why it says other rules as well. This is a longer definition of tajweed. All right. So we'll pause here, inshallah. And what we're going to do is every Monday we'll do like this book here. I'll break it down slowly, right? If you guys really want a crash course, and we can go through it quicker and skip a lot of this stuff, but it is some beneficial information. You get to understand things. Thursdays we'll have a class, but that class is you guys will have to prepare something. So you have to prepare recitation. So what I want from you guys on Thursday is that you will listen to Sheikh Iman Suwaid on the Quran app. And if you guys don't know what that is, anyone's a new student, you can ask the older students. And you will read Surah Al-Fatiha. So listen to him throughout the week. Try to pick up the nuances and try to copy him to the T. I highlighted some of the stuff that needs to be highlighted before, but of course you probably forgot those kind of things. For instance, saying Allahu instead of Allahu. The Ra should be full. Sa, yeah, those kind of things. Al-Rahman instead of Ar-Rahman. So he recites like that. So if you pay attention, you'll be able to pick it up. The problem is when we listen and we don't know what to look out for, then we can't grasp. So if you know what to look out for, then you can really learn. So I want everyone to listen to that, and I'll listen to everyone here on Thursday, inshallah. We'll continue. So Thursdays are reserved for practicals, and then Mondays we'll do the actual lesson. We're going to pause here, inshallah. Wa sallallahu tabarak wa ta'ala ala khayri khalqihi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.